If you've ever woken up one day and realized that everything you searched for was never what truly fulfilled you. If you've ever looked around and noticed that a lot tired you out and a little, when sincere, calmed you down. The day has come for you to understand why this can happen. There is a rare type of person who doesn't need luxury to feel abundance, who lives serenely while the world runs, and who discovered an ancient secret. Peace is not in having more, but in needing less. We live in an era where emptiness has a beautiful address. People smile in photos but break down in silence. They run after achievements, but run away from their own soul. And the more they accumulate, the more they miss it. But there are those who live differently, and it is about this psychology that we are going to talk. Jesus lived with almost nothing, and yet he had everything. He slept in the open air, ate whatever was available, and even so he said, "My peace I give to you." What was there in him that the world does not understand? Why do those who live with little live so lightly? And how is this lightness actually a spiritual strength? Today you will understand the divine psychology of sufficiency. You will discover what modern science confirms and the gospel already taught, that a grateful heart is the antidote to anxiety, and that little, when it has a purpose, becomes fullness. This video is an invitation, not to have more, but to be more. Imagine a city full of lights but empty of soul. People rush, flaunt, hoard, and still feel lacking. We live in an era of much and haste, but the heart remains hungry. Jesus, however, walked slowly, owned almost nothing, and lived in fullness. The paradox is simple. The less you need, the freer you are. Peace does not come from abundance, but from balance. The world screams more, God whispers enough. And in the midst of this contrast, the soul finds rest. He who is self-sufficient has already overcome anxiety, because contentment is the true miracle of the simple. Fun fact, in ancient Hebrew culture, shalom meant complete wholeness, not absence of conflict. It was the state of someone who lived completely, even with little. That is why Jesus was complete, not because he possessed, but because he possessed nothing. He showed us that true wealth is not to depend. Peace is the home of those who trust. While the world buys distractions, the wise man collects silences. Abundance without purpose is noise, but the little that makes sense is harmony. Whoever finds peace in little has already found everything, and whoever seeks everything without peace remains empty. Too much distracts, too little reveals. There are eyes that see everything but see nothing. They look at screens, shop windows, and targets, but they don't notice the essential. The modern mind lives in the after. The peaceful mind lives in the now. The difference between them is not luck. It is consciousness. And consciousness is the gift of those who live awake in the present. Psychology calls this inner contentment, the ability to feel complete even in the midst of absence. A grateful heart does not need novelty to feel joy. Gratitude is the shield of those who do not allow themselves to be consumed by desire. Those who are grateful rest, and those who rest overcome the fear of lack. Fun fact, researchers at Harvard University have found that daily gratitude reduces symptoms of anxiety and insomnia by more than 20%. But the Bible already said this 2,000 years ago, "In everything give thanks." Science confirms what faith already knew. Peace is the result of a heart that remembers and gives thanks. A contented soul is a silent fortress. She doesn't compete, she doesn't compare, she doesn't need to prove anything. Gratitude transforms what we have into what is enough, and what is enough is always enough. Fulfillment begins where wanting ends. Peace is not a luxury, it is a choice. Think of a simple table, warm bread, and a sincere prayer. That's where the miracle happens. Jesus taught, "Give us this day our daily bread," not tomorrow's bread, nor this month's stock. He knew that faith grows stronger one day at a time. The world lives in later, God works in now. The manna that fell in the desert was daily, never hoarded. Anyone who tried to save it for tomorrow would see it rot. The miracle was renewed every morning, like trust. Enough was the perfect measure of divine love. Interesting fact. In Aramaic, daily bread, lahma desumkanan, also means necessary bread. In other words, God does not give excess, He gives what is essential. It teaches dependence, not hoarding. True faith is that which trusts in enough. Tomorrow belongs to providence, not control. Whoever prays for every day, prays with humility. The soul does not lose itself in planning, but rests in trust. Anxiety diminishes when faith becomes practice. And the practice is simple. Give thanks today, rest today, live today. Because today is the altar where God multiplies the bread. God dwells in the sufficient. There are those who sleep in soft beds and still wake up tired. The weight is not in the body, it is in the soul that wants too much. Anxiety is the sound of a heart that doesn't trust God's timing. It makes noise inside, even in the silence of the room. And the more you desire, the less you rest. Jesus knew this weariness and said, "Do not worry about what you will eat, what you will wear, or what you will drink." It was an invitation to serenity. He knew that the fear of lack creates scarcity within the mind. Peace begins where control ends. Curiosity. The word anxiety in Greek, merimnao, comes from arizo, to divide. The anxious person is divided, half in the now, half in the future. But the whole heart lives only in the present. That's why faith is the antidote to fragmentation. It brings together what fear separates. Excess is the modern version of fear. Hoarding is trying to hold on to what time will take away. But the spiritual understands. The essential is never lost. Those who trust in God do not need control. Rest is the most mature prayer. He who trusts, keeps silent. He who fears, accumulates. See someone smiling with little. This is the face of freedom. A light soul is not one that has everything, but one that owes nothing to desire. Peace begins when having ceases to define being, and contentment is the greatest of luxuries. Jesus had no possessions, but he had a purpose. I slept on boats, talked to fishermen, ate whatever was available. He lacked nothing because nothing dominated him. He proved that freedom is detachment from what binds. And those who don't need much have already found enough. Fun fact, the desert monks called detachment apathy, not indifference, but purity of desire. He who wants nothing has everything, said Saint Anthony. They knew that possession does not bring peace, detachment does. Freedom is not absence, it is lightness. Modern psychology confirms. Those who value experiences more than possessions are happier. The free heart prefers bonds to objects, and free faith prefers presence to possession. Detachment is the silence of the ego, and silence is the cradle of peace. Those who are self-sufficient never lose. There is a sound in the universe that only a peaceful heart hears, that of providence. It is the gentle echo of God saying, "Enough is enough." Paul understood this and wrote, "I have learned in whatever circumstances I am to be content." This is the pinnacle of spiritual maturity, resting in sufficiency. Enough is the secret name of peace. The mature soul does not need to prove anything. She knows that God's timing is never late. While the world runs, the happy heart walks. Whoever rests in the sufficient lives in tune with the eternal. Because rest is the most beautiful form of faith. Interesting fact, in ancient Judaism, the Sabbath rest, Shabbat, was an act of faith. Resting was trusting that God would sustain what stopped. The Sabbath was therefore the weekly reminder of divine sufficiency. Whoever learns to stop, learns to trust. Contentment is the Shabbat of the soul. The heart that rests is the one that works the most spiritually. Because he doesn't fight against time, he cooperates with it. Anxiety runs, faith flows, and the flow is the rhythm of peace. Whoever lives in peace with little, lives in the rhythm of heaven. The mature soul understands, enough is sacred. 5 loaves of bread, 2 fish, enormous faith. This is how Jesus fed thousands. He never needed much, just delivery. The little, when consecrated, multiplies. God doesn't need abundance, He needs willingness. Fun fact: in Jewish culture, the mustard seed was a symbol of the impossible that flourishes. Too small to be seen, but powerful enough to grow in any soil. Jesus chose this example to teach. Small faith moves big mountains. Little is the preferred stage for miracles. The world displays the much, but heaven celebrates the faithful little. What is invisible to the eyes is treasure in the eyes of God. Whoever offers what they have multiplies what they are. Faith transforms the simple into the extraordinary, and contentment is the true daily miracle. A little with God is more than a lot without Him. There is a wealth that time does not steal. She lives in the serenity of those who have learned to be self-sufficient. It does not shine in jewels, but in calm looks. It does not show off, but transforms. This is the wealth of the soul, the invisible treasure. Jesus said, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." And maybe that's why so many hearts are weary, because they hid the treasure in the wrong place. The rich soul is the one that keeps itself in God. What is inside can never be lost. Fun fact: in Aramaic, heart, leb, also means center. In other words, the heart is the axis of the soul. Whoever keeps it in God lives centered, whole, awake. Peace is the invisible throne of those who inhabit the essential, and the essential is what the world does not value. In the end, the psychology of those who live in peace with little is the secret to eternity. They don't have everything, but they have what matters. They don't run, they walk. They don't accumulate, they trust. And they discover that little, in God's hands, is infinite. Simplicity is the sanctuary of the soul. In the end, peace does not come when we have everything. It arrives when we understand that we already have the essentials. The world calls it loss, but heaven calls it freedom. Because the heart that has learned to be self-sufficient carries a wealth that time cannot steal. And that is true abundance: need little and be grateful for everything. The psychology of those who live in peace with little is not theoretical, it is lived. It is the wisdom of those who have exchanged fear for trust, the rush for presence, the comparison for gratitude. These people don't live in a rush, they walk with purpose. The curious thing is that throughout the Bible, great miracles were born from little. The widow's oil, the bread in the desert, faith the size of a seed. God never needed much, just surrender. And maybe the secret of life is not to accumulate, but allow the little in His hands to become enough. The heart that rests in enough is the heart that has already understood God's timing. He does not force, does not demand, does not dispute. Just trust. And by trusting, you flourish. Because faith is not screaming for more, it is resting in what already is. The true miracle is to live lightly in a world that weighs. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to the channel and walk with us. Here, each video is a reminder that the extraordinary resides in the simple, and that little in the right hands becomes eternal. May the Spirit teach you to find peace not in what is missing, but in what already is.